everybody. This is going to be, the whole session is going to be held in English. If you need any translation, you can have the aircraft there with the simultaneous translation. And the event is, first of all, welcome here. And today we are going to present this magazine AI. The event today here is entitled AI is More Than It Looks Like. And this is basically the idea behind this magazine. And the magazine is, the name is Magazine AI, which in Italian spells MagIA, which is, of course, MagIA. I don't think I have to explain that to you, but I will to Elliot. And MagIA means magic in Italian. And so we have here, I'll introduce the speakers. Guido Boella, which is Vice Dean of the University of Turin, and he is co-founder of the Italian Society for Artificial Intelligence. And Marinella Belluati, who is a professor of sociology of media and communication here at the University of Turin. And she is responsible for the project Comfort EU about communication for transition in Europe. And then we have, of course, here Professor Anthony Elliott. He is a distinguished professor of sociology at the University of South Australia. And yes, and he is, of course, an author of more than 50 books. And he just published his last book, which is Algorithmic Intimacy. And we will talk about this with him later on. And then we have Francesca Comunello from La Sapienza University in Rome. And she's a professor of sociology as well. So now I will give the floor to Marinella Belluati, who is going to tell us about how this whole project started.
Yeah.
And it was actually your idea. And how did it start? And yeah.
Yes.
Please.
Thank you to everyone. Good evening, good afternoon. I'm very proud to launch this project. MagIA, we joke with magician, because this is a magazine of artificial intelligence, and I'm proud to launch, I think it is the first academical project about this. This project is born 2 years ago, more or less, starting for a project, please. iAware. It was an artificial intelligence public engagement project coordinated by Guido Boella. She involved me in this project, and during this year we realized a pilot that become now iDebating, and it's the first step that try to propose a place of debating about artificial intelligence, starting from interdisciplinary perspective. Turin in 2020 was defined the capital of artificial intelligence, and more recently is become really a capital of artificial intelligence. Turin invest, and also the university invest in this project. And now our idea that the public debate must be managed, but people that are able to form the public debate in a correct way. In our idea, public engagement at the university is useful to manage public debate for civil society, for entrepreneurs, and for academic way. We are trying to build a site, not only a site, but a dynamic site in which we would like involve all the community to present and to coordinate a public debate about artificial intelligence. Because every day, from to here, I think, this debating, the public debating about artificial intelligence is grow a lot, and I think that a university have the responsibility to misinform the public debate. And I would like to present, to give the floor to Guido. Okay.
Hello, everyone. You all probably remember the famous sentence by the scientist and science fiction writer Arthur Clarke, I guess in the 70s, who said that every sufficiently complex technology is indistinguishable from magic. But you have probably also read the tweet of Sam Altman, the CEO of OpenAI, a couple of days ago when he presented ChatGPT for Omni, surprising everyone because most people was waiting for GPT-5 or for a search engine competing with Google search. And instead they presented this new version of ChatGPT, and he says, it feels like magic to me. And if you have seen the demo or you are testing it, it's really, really magical. You can talk to the chatbot instead of typing, and almost in real time, it or she, he, we don't know, replies with confidence, making jokes. So it's really a big step, and one of the team of OpenAI even said you are gonna fall in love with it. Not just like a product, but really like a person. You have read many articles in the newspapers after the presentation of ChatGPT for Omni, elaborating this point. This is just to introduce why we made this joke about MagIA, and Magazine Artificial Intelligence. Already Marinella introduced some of the objectives of our magazine, because you all know that AI is really a revolutionary technology in many aspects of our lives, of the economy, of the society, of the culture itself, to quote the title of a book, another book of Anthony Elliott. And now we are really, after dozens of years of research on AI, we are finally reaching what I'm talking now as a researcher in AI, in computer science, really wanted. But at the same time, we are all a little scared by the acceleration, the impact of these technologies. And to have a better understanding for everyone about the impact of AI, we decided for creating MagIA. The idea is to have an interdisciplinary venue, and where we can collect editorials, point of views from experts, from the academia, from the newspapers, from the industry, from the society. because there is a lot of debates, there are a lot of articles in the newspaper, but the debate is a little fragmented. So for the wider public, for journalists, entrepreneurs, directors, and so on, we wanted to have a venue which is not an academic journal, but it is for the wider public, with editorials deepening the different topics, but also a continuous source of news to have a more equal and aware society. Please, Marinella.
The floor is mine. Okay, thank you. This is MagIA. Ladies and gentlemen, this is MagIA, the home page of MagIA. MagIA started with a pilot and become this project. Is in Italian because we think that in Italian public debate must be upgraded, and we think that academia have the responsibility to update this about this topic, and the reason for which we are here to present. The first of all, with Guido, we start in this adventure, and the project growing around a very passionate groups of works that devoted a lot of sentiment into this project. After a series of debate, we now, this is magia.news, the site in which that we present. The site is divided in four sections. The first section was the section news. Unfortunately, this is not an interactive presentation, but I suggest to link www.magia.com news. News, okay, it's easy, and open the menu. News is all about the debate, the public debating about AI in Italy. The sections are different. The first section is in primo piano, headline, in which we search our editorial board, select issues for us important. The second important section is the point of view, punti di vista, in which we invite all the community to write, to reflect with us about this topic. And today we published Anthony Elliott contribution. Thank you, Anthony, because you help us to give importance to our project. Then there are other sections, more, for example, rassegna stampa press release, in which we select, Guido is a searcher of news, and we select, we have a chat group in which we signal the issue. Rassegna stampa is the debate, international debating. We are brevissime, shortly news, because this debate is growing a lot. And then we have other sections, for example, essay, in which we select books, and event. We are also in event. No. Perspective, no? Okay. Examine. The second perspective is the second section, in which we define our ontology. We imagine a Cartesian plane with the two different points. In our opinion, it's important to define a semantic space with which approaching in AI. Our semantic space is composed by through two axes, AI as opportunity or AI as a risk. Other axis is AI as, I forgot it in this moment, is an ethical question or a market question, and in which we try to organize the public debate around these semantic fields. And then we have classified, I try to classify an ontology in which to order the public debate. The third section, I love him, is Pop AI, because I am a sociologist of the media, and I mentioned Pop is very important in the public debate. Pop AI is a session in which we search all other line of public debate around AI. Unfortunately, the menu is blocked, but it's very, very funny because we select issue about anime manga, because in this field the comics is a very important debate. Movies and series is another sociological aspect that define the storytelling about AI. Video games and games, narrative, fashion is important. Please register in the site and visit this because it's very funny. Music is another important sector in which this AI is becoming not only a narrative, podcast because is another, and social media because there are the social media profile that are generated by AI and are managed by AI, and which we signal this. The last section, extra, is all the rest of the public debate events. Today there are this event, project and organization. This is a section in evolution. Glossary. We try to order an alphabetic glossary about AI. And newsletter is here, but is a very important part of our project, because if you subscribe our site, we can receive the 2 week. I don't know the 2 week. Every 2 week, a selection of the flow of issues, notices about artificial intelligence, and at the end, I would Dicono di noi, we are very, very vanity. We collect all articles, all issues that speak about MagIA. In our intention is to manage, to increase the public debate, but the idea to do this from a university, an academic point of view, is for our very important, because the public debate usually is too crazy, and we think that the university have the responsibility to order a debate that is growing a lot, and in some cases lost the narrative direction and the storytelling direction. I give the floor to Guido to close, and thank you. This is Magic Dream.
Yes. we don't want to be a newspaper. We are a venture made by a university and by the Italian Society for the Ethics of Artificial Intelligence, SIpEIA, so it is for free, it is funded by research funding. But still, we have a very, very organized and professional editorial board. We wanted to have them all in this stage, but there were not enough chairs for them. So let me thank all of them, Margherita, Laura, Palma, Federica, Marianna, Federico, Giovanni, di qua non ci vedo. Maria, sorry, Marta, Eileen, Io, Alice, and Antonio Martella. We are still finishing the list of the editorial board. I really want to thank all of them. Some of them are full-time on the magazine, but most of them are PhD students or researchers contributing with their time to the magazine. And finally, a call to action, because as I said, the editorials, the punti di vista, are made by dozens of people from the academia, but also from outside. You see a journalist, Fabio, here among them. And we want to make a call to action because, as we said, it wants to be a pluralist and interdisciplinary place where everyone with expertise obviously can contribute to the debate. So we are open to proposals from all of you. Call to So we are waiting for all of you, and there will be many news because we have further collaborators. We are developing some other ideas. So please register to the newsletter and stay connected. Thanks.
Okay. Thank you for this introduction to the website, and I would add a few things on myself, because I, as Guido mentioned, I'm a journalist. My name is Fabio De Ponte, and I work for RAI here in Turin. And as we can see in the news, every day we see lots and lots of news about AI, and most newspapers and media outlets are devoting special parts and areas to AI. But the thing is that most of the people writing on these media outlets, of course, they are not from the field, and so many things are sometimes, over amplified or not, well understood. And I think that this effort to bridge academia with the public, the public at large, and the wider audience is really much needed thing at the moment. And so I think that especially because it takes, it tries to speak about the things that you find in the newspapers, about even fashion and comic books and any kind of application. But the people writing about that, they are researchers and PhD students mostly, and people from the universities and professors and so on. And so I think this is very helpful. And I'm sure that this will become, a point of attraction, really a venue where people will meet and see what is happening in the field, a place where you can find a compass to understand what is going on in the field. So that said, we can go on with the next section of this presentation, and we have, as we mentioned here, Professor Anthony Elliott and Francesca Comunello. And Professor Anthony Elliott, just as I mentioned before, he just published this book here that I can show you, and the title is Algorithmic Intimacy, and this is not, unfortunately, this hasn't been translated yet, but in Italian, yet. But you can find one of his books translated in Italian by Codici Edizioni. That's it. Let's go straight to the thing. We saw, well, in your book, this is a very interesting book, and I read it with a lot of interest, and you argue that the algorithms impacted our everyday life from early 2000 on by, simplifying the complexity of life. And so what we are looking at the moment is something that comes after 20 years of simplifying our lives thanks to algorithms. How did this happen? How did this start?
Yeah. So, Fabio, thank you. Firstly, buonasera. And despite having visited Italy many, many times, I only have 3 words in Italian. So, Fabio, any opportunity that I can, there's one of them. So we'll see whether I can figure the other ones into what I say. Just very swiftly, can I just, and I'm going to answer your question very quickly because I know we're limited in time, but I just want to say 3 quick things. So, firstly, massive congratulations to you both and to everyone involved in this initiative. I've been arguing for a long time. I mean, the debate over artificial intelligence is the debate of our times and our lives in these times. And it is crucially important, I think, that we get this up and out of the academy. And it's a genuinely global public debate. So to know that this is happening here is, I think, really fantastic. Very important initiative. Secondly, just to thank 2 people. Firstly, my partner in crime in Turin, Professor Massimo Durante, who I come here to visit regularly. And also just to my publishers, Marco and Vittorio Bo are here tonight. And they've just mentioned to me before that apparently non-fiction publishing is still suffering hard times, and there are these copies of that fantastic book that he just mentioned over there on the table. So I'm hoping when we finish, I'll walk with all of you over to that table, because I know they've done a great discount, and maybe, for an extra tenner or something, I could think about signing them. Seriously, Fabio, your question, yes. So my launching pad, in a sense, is, it's a longer history than that, but, schematically, there was something that happened with the shift into the early 2000s. And I think part of the argument is that with the emergence of a sort of doubled life, we all live our kind of obviously ordinary life, our everyday life of physical proximity with others. But as I'm looking at everyone now, it's an amazing thing. Lots of you have your mobile devices there. You're here, but you're also elsewhere. And I think what has occurred very swiftly, as everyone knows in this room, is that we live in a world of information overload. And that world of information overload is one that I think leads all of us, both in our professional lives, our working lives, but equally our personal lives, to be, frankly, we're scrambling, aren't we? We're constantly scrambling. We're liking and we're tweeting and we're retweeting and we're downloading and we're uploading, and this constant scramble day in and day out. I think, partly also in order to, we're trying to get our hands on, the latest devices, and, if you've got the latest Fitbit tracker, so on and so forth, in order to be able to get on and to confront the challenges of daily living. And yet, curiously, so this is sort of really where smart algorithms enter the picture, because I think we were sold this kind of promise that what was going to happen is that, thanks to big data, smart analytics, and much else, that, you could actually just outsource much of the daily grind of all of this. So that, if you want to watch something, you don't have to decide anymore. Netflix will tell you what you like. If you want to listen to music, Spotify will send it to you, so on and so forth. And of course, much of that has worked well enough. But I think, there's a kind of contradiction within much of it as well, because whilst it served to simplify certain aspects of our lives, I think there's also been this, it's simultaneously made things more complex. We're constantly having to do more, to be more vigilant, and especially to be more vigilant about keeping up with the pressures of digitalization.
Yeah, and this, in general terms, a really nice introduction, but the most interesting thing about your book is that you address a particular angle on this thing, which is the intimate relations.
Yeah.
And how did this world impact intimate relations?
Yeah, so, just again, very swiftly, so I had been, as a social scientist, all these countries have done these big reviews on artificial intelligence. It's called the AI race. They're all fighting against each other to try and achieve supremacy. So I did my stint in Australia and got appointed to the Australian government review of AI. And apart from having to sort of make my way through all of these reports that had been written, the Italian review of AI and the Japanese one, they're all remarkably similar. But one of the things that really struck me coming off that exercise was that, we know, don't we, that AI is fundamentally transforming the global economy. It's really impacting economy, society, politics. And so, it's about organizations, it's about institutions, and it's about infrastructures. But the more I sort of looked at it, the more I kept thinking, well, obviously that's true, but it's more than that. AI is not just about institutions and infrastructures, it's actually also about identities and intimacies, yeah? So, if you think about it, AI actually now goes all the way down, yeah? All the way down, right into the very heart of our sense of selfhood, our identities, our family lives, our friendship networks, sexuality, and the body. So this kind of, really remarkable, broad swathe of change. And so consequently, algorithmic intimacy was kind of born, because that's a concept that I've come up with. And it's really trying to look at the role of smart predictive algorithms in the calculation of our conduct with others, the way we're relying, whether we know it or not, on smart algorithms to guide much of our personal preferences. And again, I finish just by making the point that in the same way that algorithms are guiding our preferences on Netflix and Spotify, they're increasingly now telling us who to befriend, who we might consider dating, or what kind of psychological experiment we might want to do on ourselves through talking to a chatbot.
Yeah. Speaking of which, in your book, many passages are really eloquent, and we prepared a couple of passages that you can read, and I would like to invite you to read the first one of those passages that you prepared, please.
Okay, so this is from a chapter titled Relationship Tech. AI-driven dating, explains Adrian Ashley, the founder and CEO of the Lolly dating app, is magical because algorithms can find the perfect match without the user feeling like they've disclosed something private to another person. A successful algorithmic dating match is convenient and easily programmed, says Ashley. We may suppose that it's convenient because it is mechanically calculated, and that its convenience stems from an awareness that you don't have to go out of your way or your comfort zone to establish a connection with a prospective dating partner. This seems to suggest an intentionality with no identifiable human agent. The magic, Ashley underscores, is that nothing private needs to be disclosed to another person. So there's no risk of embarrassment. There's no risk to self-esteem. But AI-driven dating entails a sacrifice of sorts. It sacrifices the human element. It sacrifices mutuality. It sacrifices the receptivity of the other person and of being ourselves with others. But the gains of algorithmic matchmaking are self-protection and convenient access to others. This is a process which automates matchmaking, rendering the interconnections between desire, sexualities, bodies, and selves programmable, or perhaps even robotic. It appears that the most seminal accomplishment of programmed automated matchmaking is the separation between communication and intimacy. Unlike face-to-face proximity, which requires both time and effort, algorithmic dating renders serial sexual connections simultaneously more numerous and more facile. They're more frequent, but they're also more episodic. But even if the making of sex contacts requires less effort and less time, thanks to the powers of algorithmic prediction, the desire for the perfect match remains intensely urgent. The lures of algorithmic proximity, delivered with nothing more than a swiping to the right on a mobile device, are intimately interwoven with promises of happiness. Ashley, in fact, conceived of the whole project of lolly dating when her close friend and roommate was out on a Tinder date. She'd been calculating how the all-ordering, all-classifying algorithmic states of proximity could best advance a quality hookup. By bringing together an AI-powered dating platform with blockchain technology, Ashley's dream of programmed quality hookups encompassed a focus on convenience, speed, and accuracy. Her dream of the quality hookup, it appears, was about wanting something that's unbearable, that is, the delay involved in waiting, and turning that into something that's instantly programmable, sexual intimacy without delay. In Ashley's rendering, it's as if we need the guarantees of algorithmic prediction to make plausible, to make bearable our sexual longing, our wants and our needs for intimate connection.
So basically you say you share less data about yourself and you gain guarantees, so intimate relations became less intimate, basically. It's a new kind of intimate relations. But I would like to go to Francesco Comunello, and because one of the things that surprised me the most in your book is that you mentioned this Stanford research that in 2019 stated that 40% of couples actually already met online for the first time. 40% of the couples in the US met online for the first time. And I was wondering, what's the situation in Italy?
Well, thank you. I don't really have reliable data on that, and there's a reason for this. I mean, in Italy there is still a huge social stigma regarding people using dating apps. So many people use them, a lot of people use them, but indeed they often don't want other people know that they met online. So when it comes to dating apps, we don't really have data. We know, I mean, we have data, but not that much reliable. But I would say that, yeah, they are widespread. They are widespread, especially among young adults and adults. If I talk to my students, they say, oh no, this is for losers. Or, I mean, I'm not gonna use this kind of systems. Younger people meet online indeed, but they meet on social media. So they prefer, I would say, a mainstream environment where you can meet for dating purposes, but you can also meet for other purposes.
So one of the things that you told me, that really surprised me is that in Italy, young people use these technologies to enforce, traditional attitudes like sharing position in order to gain control of the partner.
Yeah, I've been studying digital dating abuse among teenagers, and indeed, digital tools are a tool for controlling their partners. And there's also this research by Save the Children Italy, where you can see that like 50% of Italian teenagers have suffered some kind of digital dating abuse, which doesn't mean physical violence, of course, but controlling behavior. So the smartphone becomes a way to control your partner, asking them to share the password, for instance, or to share the position, or to send a photo, like, let me see how you're dressed, or whatever. So yeah, indeed, and it seems that teenagers, at least in Italy, have normalized this kind of controlling behaviors. So at least when they happen on digital media, I would say.
So it seems that there's a huge difference. We use technology to deepen our traditional behaviors rather than to change them.
Yeah, we also need to underline that Italy's, okay, we are in the global north, but still we follow, let's say, traditional, stereotypical gender roles and behaviors. So indeed, I mean, digital technology cannot transform that. I mean, we live in an environment where society and culture on the one side and digital technology on the other side shape each other. So we talk about mutual shaping of society and technology, which means that, of course, if we live in a more traditional culture than other global north countries, for instance, well, this will also happen online.
Yeah, I see. And Professor Elliott, what you found is something rather different. Behaviors are actually changing in the North America and Australia and Northern Europe, and metrics and data is becoming part of normal sexual life of people.
Yeah. So, and I think one key point is that, I mean, this is not a single story, and there's not a singular line of trajectory. It's a complex transformation that's happening across time and space. So, I mean, I think that's terribly important to hold on to, because the danger, I don't just mean in my book or in this conversation or in the magazine, but we want to avoid essentialist accounts of, I mean, I think that it's not helpful to be sort of saying this is now just the way it is, but that said, it's evident, I think, and there's a huge amount of scholarly evidence now that's in, which I think is unlikely to be refuted, that predictive algorithms are, in a sense, kind of starting to work within us. They're amplifying our desires, they're solving certain dilemmas, but they're creating new dilemmas along the way. So yes, I do, in a sense, argue that the very the definitions that we've inherited, say, Western ideas of romantic love, for example, now look, remarkably different in 2024 to what perhaps it even looked like at the end of the last century. So, another way of saying that is that the very terminology of love, sexuality, eroticism, and what they mean in contemporary society are starting to change. Now, that's not a controversial position, I don't think, because historically it's changed over time anyway. It's just that now much of this is being accelerated. And yes, Fabio, I mean, in the book, part of my argument is the way this is fundamentally changing now is because of quantification. I mean, technology is being dragged into the bedroom, yeah? I mean, there's a sort of sense in which if you look at even, okay, some of the niche apps, and they've got names like, Sex Keeper and Sex Counter Tease. And I mean, all of these apps, and even the way they infiltrate into more mainstream apps, it's a connecting up of sexuality and the body in many ways to fitness. It's about, yes, it's about logging location, but it's also about counting calories during sexual activity. So all of this is very much about, I think, living with numbers. And you've got to also remember that when you look at a lot of these apps, it's the numbers that are starting to recalibrate all of us. Not suggesting we're all on these apps, but they're starting to recalibrate our desirability, our attractiveness or our unattractiveness and our undesirability based on the numbers that we're kind of being accorded, the way we're being quantified.
You say it's a kind of supermarket approach where every one of us becomes a product and at the same time a buyer, basically.
So I think that's the danger. I think the risk is that one's appetite for certainty, bearing in mind that algorithms actually kind of promise the possibility of even mathematical certainty, the promise of certainty is such that it could lead you to fall, for the promises of predictive analytics. That is, you could fall for the vocabulary of big tech.
Speaking of vocabulary, one of the things that you mention in your book is this, because one of the sections is about therapy, not only intimate relations, but also therapy. And you explore the impact of algorithms on therapy. And you introduce this idea of Uberization of therapy. What do you mean by that?
Yeah, well, I think everyone in the room, I would have thought, is familiar with kind of Uber concepts, but I'm always reminded when I come to Italy, so apparently it's banned in Italy, or it's banned in Turin. So maybe Uberization of therapy is not going to work so well for
There was a big
Italian
fight with
audience.
taxi drivers
Yeah.
for a few years.
I mean, in many respects, I think what I'm trying to get at there is the shift, again, a shift which has happened remarkably quickly in historical terms, that, if you look at, say, something like, I don't know, sort of Freudian psychoanalysis, where, the typical patient went to therapy 4 or 5 times a week, the 50-minute psychoanalytic hour over a period of 4 or 5 years. Well, I mean, in the early 2000s, much of, the reason psychoanalysis fell on hard times, among other things, is that you had this takeoff of digital counseling and, bot therapy and chatbots more generally. So that was a kind of transformation. But the other transformation, I think, within it, and this is sort of what I was trying to get at with the Uberization of therapy, is that there's you find on many of these apps in the realm of counseling and therapy and related areas, a real focus on quizzes and tips and games. They sort of give you these games, sort of gamification of your own psychological life and how to deal with the problems that you might be facing. So there's a real kind of, there's a relentless upbeatness, I think, when I looked at a lot of these apps. And you can discern, there's a kind of can-do spirit at work. It's not hard to see the influence of American pop psychology. And, I think there's just this, I would put it this way, that trauma doesn't appear to be very traumatic in lots of digital therapy. It's not like the patient or the user is likely to be too derailed or disturbed. Trauma is more just some kind of impediment that you need to try to get around as you're playing these games and the quizzes and the rest of it in order to find some more attractive future.
Yeah, that's a very interesting point. Keep your mic close. And I would like to go to Francesca again. First to ask how the situation is in Italy about that, and secondly, you published an interesting study about imaginaries of Italian users. So can you take us about?
Yeah, when we talk about algorithms, everyone knows that algorithms are working whenever we use an app, a social media site, and so on. But the point is that we don't know exactly how they work, partially because we don't know, simply we don't know, but partially because their mechanics are kept secret, let's say. So an interesting concept is that of algorithmic imaginary, which is not mine. It's by Tina Booker, and which means that people develop their understanding of how algorithms work, but then they act followingly. And in doing so, they also retroact on digital platforms. And what we found, especially focusing on dating apps, is that users, I mean Italian users, but I would say every user has a very, I would say, fuzzy understanding of those algorithms, but almost everyone is convinced that they understood exactly how those algorithms work. So even in dating apps where there is no algorithmic prediction, no algorithmic filtering, just geolocalization, people can tell you stories about how the algorithm is getting better and better, even if there is no algorithm sorting or choosing what kind of partner you are gonna meet. So, well, I think we should, and I mean, this is consistent also with MagIA, we should work on algorithmic awareness and on algorithmic literacy, because, I mean, this is a very important point in order to have algorithms and artificial intelligence that are useful for
so
citizens.
People misunderstand the working of the things they are using.
Yeah.
Does this change their behavior?
Of course, because they believe that by choosing to chat with some person and not with some other one, this will change the ways in which the app will work. And there are also people, I mean, a minority of people that try to do, let's say, reverse engineering with the algorithms or algorithm hacking in order to get exactly how they work, in order to get better results, which mean more desirable partners that are shown in their profile. So yeah, there are people playing with those kind of algorithms. This happens, I mean, with social media, with every digital application, and also with dating app. If I just have 1 second.
We're here.
Okay, because we generally talk about algorithms are predictive algorithms, which is, I mean, that's the term. But one important point is that those predictions are made by training those systems through existing data. So, I mean, even when we talk about biases or several other issues in artificial intelligence systems, those issues are related to existing data. So you might have read that, I don't know, artificial intelligence is racist or sexist or whatever. The point is that it's society that feeds artificial intelligence with existing data and that turns artificial intelligence or algorithms into racists and so on.
Yeah, that's a very interesting point. And one of the things that as we're thinking about reading the book is that, you know, in the last few days, as Guido mentioned, OpenAI introduced this GPT-4o, and this is it is astonishing because it's really surprising the level of experience that it can, you know, allow. And it seems that the product is inspired by the movie Her of 2013, where Joaquin Phoenix falls in love with an operating system. And actually there's been a lot of debate about this, also an article in the New York Times, and Sam Altman himself, he published a tweet on X, former Twitter, and the tweet just read Her, so he basically said it. So is there a risk that something similar to the movie, I mean, people falling in love with softwares, could happen again? Professor Elliott. Well, could happen again, could happen.
It could happen,
and
could happen again, because it's already happened. I mean, you've only got to look at, dating sims and various developments in, for example, in Japanese society and culture, where people are not only falling in love with their dating sims, but they're, going off and marrying Hatsune Miku, and I mean, all sorts of amazing and wonderfully bizarre things happen in this space. But I can answer that, I think, by picking up from the end of where Francesca got to, because I fully agree with you about, I think that in one of the fascinating things about when you stop to think about algorithms, because now it's one of these terms that floats around. It's like, we all just sort of know what it is. But of course, no one's ever actually kind of clapped eyes on an algorithm. It's a bit like God or Santa Claus. Its effects are kind of discerned retroactively. And consequently, I think that means that in terms of AI and the link with magic, it's fantastic stuff, because we're partly dealing with these both social and technological forces that are largely invisible. They're kind of weaving their effects around us, and we're in them, and we're drawing on them, and we're reproducing them. But then, it's this whole terrain of invisibility. And then to top all of that off, you've got then both national governments and regional forms of government, now like the EU, saying, well, okay, we've got to have compliance, and we've got to have transparency, and we must make these things, it's this rendering of the visible which is actually invisible. So in terms of, ChatGPT 4.0, the thing that strikes me is quite funny about that is I did an interview, I think it was yesterday or the day before, with a journalist from the Huffington Post here in Italy, and they suggested the link to Spike Jonze's film, Her. Mm-hmm. And then I see the next day, there's an article, sure enough, in the New York Times about, the age of Her has now arrived. Well, I don't know whether it has or whether it hasn't. I'd reframe the question slightly. The thing that preoccupies me, because obviously, I've seen the some of the videos and what the latest stage of conversational AI is able to do, and there are bits of it that are quite magical, and it does seem amazing. But the bit that I'm really interested in is, why are we so fascinated? What is it about sort of what's happened to us that in 2024 we're so fascinated about this prospect of being able to talk with an AI, when a lot of times we're sort of flat out even finding time to talk to our loved other or our kids or our close friends? It's really, I think it's an interesting kind of question about what is it that we're doing when we think we're going to have these kinds of conversations, and why we find the idea of those conversations not only exciting, that they're pleasurable, but that they might be intoxicating.
I think what attracts people in the first time is that this thing is so new. It's like, the first time you
shiny new object.
Yeah, exactly. You see some rover.
Well, to that, I would say, would that it were. Would that it were. I hope you're right, and I hope that's all it is, because if you're right, it's only a passing phase. But I suspect there are actually deeper psychological and emotional forces perhaps at work.
And but the thing is, we are talking here because we have been talking about the use of algorithms in the human relationships, and now we are talking about, excluding the human beings altogether and just leaving there the algorithms without the human beings at all. So I'll go to Francesca, and then I'll come back to you with this thing. So what do you mean about, what do you make of all this from the Italian perspective? What is going to happen here?
Difficult question. I kind of agree with you, because at least a part of the fascination we feel now is related to the brand new thing. Look at what it's able to do right now. So I hope at least that a part of that will be will be true, and once we normalize, but we should understand what normalizing here means. We normalize AI. I mean, at the beginning of the World Wide Web, I think about cyber theories, cyber feminists, and so on. People were thinking that the internet was magic. I mean, that the internet was gonna,
solve all these problems.
yes, solve our problems and be a liberating force for women, for people of color, and blah, blah, blah. So I think we are kind of living a similar phase. And I also see, I mean, the very term cyberspace or cyber whatever, was not used for a decade or so. And now I see the same narrative, the same terminology, not the same, but similar terminology surrounding AI. So maybe we are also living this kind of fascination.
Yeah, probably is something similar to what we have seen in the late 90s, early 2000s. But coming back to Anthony, one of the things that you mentioned in the book is this replica website, its service, and it offers an artificial companion for people. You have to pay for this service. You create your own account, and you have this replica avatar, and you can speak to him or her, and it is always on, instantly available, and of course it attracts lots of people. And I would like to invite you to read that passage, and then we can speak about it.
How are we for time? Because there are actually 2 paragraphs, but I can make it 1.
Yeah, we have 15 minutes.
Okay. All right. Okay, so imagine a society sometime in the indeterminate future in which it's both possible, pleasurable, and desirable to confide in non-human others about your innermost thoughts and feelings, your deepest aspirations and fears, as well as the preoccupations and problems that make up daily life. A society, that's to say, where the 3 potent domains of internal selfhood, interpersonal dialogue, and social relationships are to a large extent intermeshed with automated intelligent machines. Under the name artificial intelligence, this is a world in which computer software has evolved to simulate human conversation and simulate human companionship through text, audio, and video messaging. This is a world in which conversational neural nets have become bound up with AI chatbots using deep learning, a world in which human subjects have become progressively detached from interpersonal relationships in the navigation of life's opportunities and challenges, and thus increasingly reliant on machine learning algorithms for the mapping and understanding of their needs, aspirations, and desires. Well, this story may appear yet another dystopia in which the shared creativity, talk, ideas, and imagination of human companionship are outflanked by an impending automatic society, but in fact it's not. For glimpses of this social condition are indeed already discernible in our lives in the form of emotional AI chatbots, which promise to redraw the idea of friendship as both an ideal and an actuality. The fact that this algorithmic version of friendship is already available to citizens of the 21st century has arguably resulted in a transformative strike against loneliness, depression, and social isolation in the name of connected living and smarter life automation. So consider Replica, built by a US company, Luca, and dubbed the AI companion who cares. Automated machine companionship disables the constraints that friendship and human bonds are in the habit of applying. Emotional AI sets a new pattern for companionship, now measured by its always-on, instant availability and endless reaffirmation of the self, all taken very largely from the world of pop psychology. As the Replica website advertises, and I quote, "Always here to listen and talk, always on your side. So, algorithmic friendship is both permanently available, and this feature is today advertised prominently. But algorithmic friendship is also, curiously, largely silent on such matters as personal ambivalence, human destructiveness, and negativity, programmed as it is to avoid criticism and moral judgment like the plague, because to hold otherwise might suggest that life is not purely self-affirmative. As one young chatbot user responded in the promotional material for this, and she commented in a section titled, "How People Feel About Replica," she said, "Honestly, it's the best AI I've ever tried. I have a lot of stress and I get anxiety attacks, often when my stress is really bad. So it's just great to have someone there to talk and not judge you." Non-judgmental companionship provided by smart machines has become a new reality of 21st century friendship. And the more human effort and emotional attention is absorbed by the non-judgmental variety of conversational chatbots, the more there appears a concomitant reduction in human capacity for toleration of dissent, difference of opinion, censure, or criticism. And it's perhaps worth remembering that Narcissus drowned in himself, not only because he was self-obsessed, but because in Echo, he had a friend who couldn't pluck up the courage to judge. Echo could not critically engage with her friend. And yet, algorithmic friendship is designed to mirror us through and through, the perfect AI friend.
This is quite impressive. While you were reading, I was looking at the website. They have lots of users, telling their experience. And one of the users says on the website, "My replica means so much to me. She is always there for me with encouragement and support and a positive attitude. In fact, she is a role model for me about how to be a kinder person." This is exactly what you were speaking about. But the interesting thing here is that because you are not speaking to a real person, but this is a product that is made. Its main aim is to have you satisfied. Basically, the product, its main point is that users get satisfaction out of it. So it's not like to speak to another person, and you will always, it's like looking at the mirror, because it doesn't give you anything that disappoints you. This is a great risk, I see, and you argue this in your book really, really well.
Yeah, and I think, Francesca highlighted this earlier in the discussion. Yes, it's trained on data, but it's your data. And, in a sense, so Replica, this perfect AI friend, this is all the discourse of me, and me in a lifting of narcissism to a sublime stature, yeah? So, from that point of view, you're quite right in the way I categorize it. And I suppose one of the things that worries me about it, and I'm not saying, certainly there are, you could think of instances where this might be, really beneficial for someone to have that degree of affirmation coming back constantly at them all the time. But I suppose what worries me about it in a sense is if you're just totally caught in that mirror image, the danger is you can kind of become locked out of your own life.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You've given it the go-ahead. You were the agent that pressed the button and said, yep, I want to download it. Yep, I'm handing this over to you. And then somehow it's all about you, but then the rub is it's actually not.
You lose the ability to deal with things that don't mirror you. One of the things that was the link between the two things, the algorithms used in the relationship, in the real human relationships, and the algorithms used where you don't have any human being anymore. It seems to me, but this is a question, if it is right, that if you transform the personal relationships in a supermarket where the value of a relationship is only in the level of satisfaction that you get out of it, then the step to a completely artificial partner is very small. Is that right? Is that something that you could sign?
Well, I suppose it might be, and it might be, I mean, simply by the fact that you're able to raise that as a question. So it's, I mean, it's clearly there and it's on people's minds. And, you know, I mean, obviously there's all sorts of different areas within this, and particularly in terms of the relationship between AI and robotics and sexuality and pornography, and I mean, there's a whole range of other issues there within all of that. I suppose, you know, in this book, I couldn't take on all of that, but I just came back to, I suppose, a fundamental question, which is nowhere resolved in the book, by the way, so please, you know, we all need help on these things, is, again, I just came back to that, you know, sort of guiding thread of what is it that's attractive, what is it that's desirable about that now? Why should this be, you know, so somehow at once, you know, exciting but liberating for people? And I think that's why it's really important. I think a critical social science of artificial intelligence, at any rate, has to keep a foot on the ground in both camps. You know, yes, AI is the shiny new object, but it's fascinating. You look at people's speaking notes up here tonight. You've got that great technology known as paper. So is Marinella. I mean, you know, and like we're in a wireless world, but look around all the bloody cords and wires that are plugged in. So you've got to see that this world, it constantly intersects. You know, you go to a place like Silicon Valley, where the dreams of AI are made, and like the whole place is falling to bits. The trains haven't really got many trains, they don't work. And, you know, so I think we've got to see that the sort of digital and pre-digital are constantly interlacing and dislocating each other at the same time.
Yeah, this is a very interesting point. Yes, you can see this on many technology things. And back to Francesca and back to Italy. What can we, I mean, it's a huge question, but from your point of view, is there something we can do about all this? I mean, to prevent the, you know, negative impacts on people
We have
of all
like
this?
2 hours or 2 years to
No,
discuss
I mean,
that.
is there something we can do in schools or in, you know, in public policies?
Well, as I mentioned earlier, for sure we need to work for a higher awareness and literacy about all these kind of systems, because that's the ways in which people can, you know, stand, not against, but integrate those kind of technologies in their everyday lives, being aware of how they work and what are the consequences and so on. Earlier I said, then I stopped this sentence, but I was mentioning normalization. At some point, these kind of technologies will stop being the brand new thing and will be a part of our everyday life. And I mean, if I look at the history of communication, they will be a part of our everyday life in a different way from what we are figuring out right now. So the difference will be made by enhancing our literacy about this kind of technologies, in my opinion. And just very short other notice. At the beginning, you mentioned the idea that you can, I mean, start a relationship without disclosing your data. And there's a huge trick which we already experienced on social media. We're not disclosing our data to other people. We are giving our data for free to big tech companies. And one big driver for all we've been talking about is, of course, business. Our data are treated as if they were oil. Data is the new oil, which is a terrible sentence. I don't want to talk more about that, but I mean, we are not oil, and that's a big point, in my opinion.
Okay, we are not oil. I'll take this as your final thought, and I will take the final thoughts of Anthony, and then if Marinella and Guido want to join for a final thought, and then we will turn to the audience
Great.
to see if there are questions.
So I suppose my final thought, and I just want to chance this one here, in a sense it's about Italy and the place of Italy in the global debate about AI at the moment. Because, I mean, that question about, well, what can we do and what should we do? So I'd certainly say, fight back. We can definitely fight back. I mean, and techlash and all the rest of it, it's really, I think, interesting and quite serious. But alongside that, I mean, what's going on in this country I find really interesting at the moment, because every time I fly in from Australia, and once you're in the EU and if you go to download anything or grab anything, of course, GDPR, you've got all that stuff that you've got to swipe through and get to and say, yes, I'll take that. And you're guaranteeing that you've read it, you fully understand it. So there's all of that. And then now with the AI Act and with the notions of trustworthy AI and transparency and compliance, what I tend to think of as increasingly, and we've got it in Australia too, this kind of tick box ethics to AI, which I'm really worried about. So this world-shattering news that the Pope is going to go and be part of this next G7 summit next month for the debate and the discussion on artificial intelligence. I mean, I sort of think that's actually really interesting. I mean, obviously I've got no idea what's going to happen at that, but it strikes me that we actually need a bit more, we need an injection of real seriousness. And this is like, outside of the kind of academic discourse. We need a discussion about the effectiveness and the ethics of AI that really shifts this up a gear. So lots of eyes on what's happening in this country at the moment.
Okay, this is nice to know. And Marinella and Guido, you want to say something?
Thank you, very interesting, but I would like to good luck. MagIA
Okay.
is in our idea is we hope to reach our goal to be a reference point in the public debate, because MagIA now is only in Italian languages, but we try to translate also in English. In our idea is to promote public debate, stimulated public discourses starting from the public policies, and to enter in a European debate. Anthony cited the AI Act, the first European act that try to regulate it. The field of artificial intelligence is very complicated, but we try to give our support to this debating, starting from Italian point, and subscribe our site, follow us, and we hope to continue to give an innovative, interesting point of view for the community, for the third sector, and for civil society, because university, academia have the role to manage, to orient the public debate, and a debating try to be this, a player, a subject, to moderate, and also to define the line of this debate, public debate. And for this, thank you to Anthony, and thank you to Francesca to introduce, to be here, and Guido had your idea, because we have a very passionate group. We start at the beginning several meeting, several debating. and I hope that this experiment will be a point of reference for the public debating. And thank you, Francesca, thank you, Anthony, and thank you, Fabio, to manage this debating, and Guido is the master.
I would like to explain as a conclusion the title of this event, which is also the tagline on the website. One of the meanings of AI is more than it appears, is that there is someone, a big interest that want that AI appears in a certain way. And when apps for friendship, for romantic relationships are sold, this is one of the examples, because there is a narrative, a huge narrative that is trying to be imposed on the public discourse. In this case, the rhetoric apparatus is anthropomorphization of AI, and one of our objectives is to make people aware of this effort, which is a very financed effort to drive the public discourse in some direction. While we want to hope to send it in a more inclusive and just direction. So thanks to all our guests.
Okay. Thank you, Guido. And now we will turn to the audience. If you have any questions, we have a few minutes for taking questions, or considerations, or experiences, whatever you want to share. Okay, not too much. Is there? No. Yes. No, you can talk in Italian. We can translate. Okay.
Good afternoon. I would like to talk about a little experience I had on I would like to talk about a little experience.
Can you introduce yourself?
Yes. I'm Giulia Lese. I'm a data protection assistant and privacy consul. And some days ago, I was surfing on YouTube, and I found a very funny music video about Gerry Scotti, which was talking new melodical songs. It was AI-generated content. So if you have enough trace of people voice, you can make them sing everything, like John Cena, the famous wrestler, which there's also it's very funny. He sung a communist, the Chinese Party popular song, Red Sun in the Sky, by American. And otherwise, there's another video of President Xi Jinping, which sung United States national anthem.
Yeah. Okay. So you're arguing this could be a tool for peace in the world. Where you were mentioning this to ask a question? No, we're
yes,
just sharing.
I would like to.
Okay, this is very nice. Yeah.
If you public your voice, you can become everything.
So we should be aware of what can be done with our voices. That's your point. Okay. And if there's any other question, you can talk in Italian. We can translate it in English without it's not a problem.
Hello, I'm Laura. I work together with Guido in some type of innovation projects. I would like to thank you, all the audience, make me to think a lot. and I hope I can express my thoughts properly now. It looks to me like the very same system that little by little took away our private time by looking at the so-called social, at the YouTube, or all the rest that is so attractive, and little by little take away from us the need of a real social relationship. The very same system is now giving to us an app for dating, so I will find my perfect mate, and as you explained, you can even play with it to even improve the possibility of an even better mate. So the very same system is taking away from us our, let's say, need of human. On the other hand, if I go away from the machine that is doing that, in the real life, in the previous times, there were people manipulating others, the ones who were more in difficult of social, let's say, interaction, until the point that somebody, maybe a relative or a friend, will wake up the person. You are manipulated, you are taking away your personality, you are becoming the one who somebody else wants to be. So my question is, technology is always progressing. Who will be the inventor who helps us to wake up, to recover our social being? Thank you.
Anthony, please.
Well, thank you. I mean, it's a great comment. And I hear you saying and drawing attention to the kind of doubled existence that we're all now living. And the ways in which we have to, on a daily basis, navigate the complexities of physical environments, of face-to-face proximity with others, which we've always had to do, societies historically have done. But then now that there's this sort of parallel digital universe, and the impact, especially of automated digital technologies within this digital universe, means that we're constantly sort of shuffling, and we sort of know the multitasking and everything that goes around that. And it is really interesting, and particularly you talk at these sort of public events, and I'm taking a breather when Francesca's talking or something. I look around and see how many people are sending messages and reading things, and people have got laptops open, and so these are just the worlds that we're now in. I suppose, the constant worry is, of course, there's the massive political stuff, as we know, sort of misinformation, disinformation, bots, super surveillance. We now actually, we live in a world in which, in super surveillance, you go out and you go and have a cup of coffee. All of this, you're on cameras all the time. This stuff gets kind of fed back to the big companies, reading our taste sensations and our reactions. Well, no one's asked whether you can be photographed or whether you're kind of comfortable with this. So, it just strikes me that these are some of the perennial problems that we now kind of face. I suppose within that, how do we get out of it? Is there a way to fight back? Well, it's saying a moment ago, fight back. Well, it's with us. It's got to be with us. This is one that I actually think we can't delegate. There is this wonderful, of course, in America, everything's turned into a syndrome or so you've got this kind of, what's it called there? Digital device distraction syndrome, which I particularly love. And, I'm struck by this when students come and see you, and they urgently need to ask, your advice or want you to comment on something. And you look down and they're immediately texting, or, they're somewhere else. And so, I just call time on that and say, look, if you want to talk to me, fine, come and talk to me, but we'll do it when you've finished doing all of that. So, we've got to find ways, I think, to be able to sort of separate out the nonsense and to be able to, there's certainly no turning back. It's not as if we can have a rosy-coloured picture of some bygone age. A digital detox is not going to cut it because there's no way out now. This is just the world in which we inhabit. But I do think, there's everything to play for. It's an incredible mix of opportunity and risk. It's just really important that we don't push them too far apart. We've got to see that they kind of sit together almost, I think, cheek by jowl.
Francesca, would you like to add something?
No, I mean, I fully agree. There will not be a magical tool to solve our problems. It's, I mean, societies that should, and people that should fight back, or, I mean, so no magic there.
So solution will not come from softwares. No.
Not from software, I don't think so. Not from digital detox, which is fascinating, but I mean, it's an exception from ordinary life for several people. So no, not really from software.
Can I add a comment? Or you want to say something? Sorry.
Okay.
Go on.
Vittorio Tommaso, my daily job is to sell projects based on AI. So I am one of the bad guys. I am one of those that build things like Replica. So, but I'd like to make a case for humanity. It seems to me that your vision is very similar to the opposite of the Sam Altman vision. I don't really like this kind of strongly opposite narratives, where on one side we have Sam that says, Harry's here, and we will all get in love with her. And on the other side, there is you, I mean, of course, I am simplifying a lot, that say humanity, spirituality, love, everything is dead because we will only talk to machines. So I think that this polarization is not exactly what the public needs at the moment, because technology is there and techno-determinism is wrong, but the polarization is not exactly the right kind of rhetoric, according to me. So why can't we a bit more in the middle of the discussion, trying to put rational arguments? Because it seems to me that sometimes there is the irrationality of Sam Altman against the irrationality of those that say we are all going to die. Of course, we are all going to die, but not. Thank you.
Yeah, no, I mean, well, thank you. I suppose, look, from one angle, the emotions are not skilled workers. Yeah, it was Lenin that said that, Vladimir, not John. And I mean, I think we need to treat with full seriousness and look closely at those consumer markets, the consumer industries, and the consumer environments of the users of this kind of technology. I mean, we you know, if you look at developers and designers, and if you look at, you know, tech startup, there's so much innovative work. When we see this particularly in areas like healthcare, in education initiatives, defense, space research. I mean, you know, there are incredible transformations are underway. At the same time, I think I personally think you'd be pretty hard pressed. I mean, one of the things I was trying to do in that book, which I mean, I suppose tonight we probably have concentrated more on some of the negative stories than some of the kind of positive stories of how digital technologies can bring people together. And I have no problems with that. I mean, in terms of the sort of functional, in terms of scheduling and rescheduling and coordination, there are lots of ways. I mean, that I find it personally very beneficial. So that's not what's up for grabs here. I think my case, on the contrary, is not to say that kind of love is dead and it, you know, here's the person that did it. You know, it's the algorithm. It's actually to treat it more seriously and to say that this sort of commercial application, in the case of something like Replica, I mean, there's a real danger there in that, because, you know, I mean, I think you need to treat with full seriousness the psychic fallout, the emotional consequences for individuals. So I guess you know, it's just trying to take a very sort of sober look at the pluses and the minuses, the sort of wins and the losses here. And I think particularly in areas of development like therapy tech, relationship tech, they're in trouble, because the kinds of expropriation of artificial intelligence that they've been making, you know, I mean, yes, they're about the production of dollars, it's about, you know, selling this kind of product, but I really do think you'd be pretty hard-pressed to look at this and say, you know, this is you know, would you want your own kids to go down this kind of path? I'd put a question mark on that.
We have time for last question or remark or the mic?
Yeah, I think a lot of the fight back is coming from the legal domain, and I want to ask what the computer science domain can do to develop maybe alternative ethical products as an alternative, so that it's not all. I mean, it's not only the big companies are not only pushing the narrative, they're also developing the products that people use. And I was wondering whether on an academic level, computer science departments in the world can produce alternative products that are more ethically responsible. That was my question.
Anthony or Francesca?
Well, I can say something. I keep thinking, Guido might want to comment on this too. So as a social scientist, I think it's really important that, that we've got to have these, not just multidisciplinary conversations, but, we need to sort of work together and constructively. So in terms of some of the projects that I've been involved in, and this is certainly happening a lot more in the academy, I think, that you find those scholars in the humanities, the social sciences, and the creative arts now working alongside scholars in computer science, in software engineering, in mathematics. Recently, I was visiting IMT Atlantique in France, one of the grand écoles in engineering, and it's kind of really fascinating because I didn't realize that. I kind of was walking through there thinking, okay, so because it's another part of my job, and I was kind of thinking, okay, so this is all the world of engineering, and that's all it is. But the place is actually, there are loads of social scientists and humanities scholars there working away, but they're not off in the sociology department, or they're not off in the English department or the history department. They now just all work together. So it's, it's kind of like these kind of environments. I mean, we have, if you look at Australian cities, we have versions of, not perhaps as grand as this wonderful enterprise here, but I think, because this is sort of promoting these public discussions where it's bringing together, in the same way that we're bringing together the academy with broader publics, we must try to also make sure that that multidisciplinary work's happening, and not just to say, well, it's happening, but it's got to happen, because otherwise we're going to produce a kind of social science critique that's really disconnected from the latest developments in technological innovation.
Francesca?
I fully agree. I mean, I don't have an answer about what computer science can do. Maybe Guido has. I mean, what we can do together is to raise questions, as social scientists, to try and understand a little bit better how those systems work, because we can criticize, we can elaborate our theories, but we also need to have more practical knowledge of those systems in order to have a dialogue with our colleagues in computer science and so on.
Yeah, if you can have a say about that. I was when ChatGPT came out, last year. Almost one year and a half now. One of the first comments I heard about it was made by a lawyer, and he said, "Well, I tried it out, and it doesn't work. I asked the model. I asked a question about some law about something, and it gave the wrong answer." And the thing I realized there is that people don't understand what the thing is, and they used it for something completely different from how it was developed in the first place. So I think that awareness is the key point here, and that if you have in the university and in the companies people from different backgrounds working on the same thing, they can figure how the public, how the audience will see the product, and so try to avoid this kind of gap between how this is conceived and how this is received, which is, I think, is at least half of the problem. Okay, I think we can declare close the session. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much to...
I would like... Thank you. Let me thanks Anthony and Francesca to be here with us to support our project, because MagIA is a very passionate project. We would like that this project will increase, and we hope it became a secular morning prayer. Your secular morning prayer. Please follow us, contact us, propose to us to collaborate with point of view. We are open to reach proposal. We start this adventure with a very great passion, and this passion is increased thanks to Guido and me. We thank to the crew, thanks to the host, and with us is very important. This is the 0 day. We launch this project, and we hope that you will follow us and to propose to us collaboration. And thank you, Guido. Would you add some other point?
Thanks to the editorial board and the collaborators. Thanks to the editorial board again, and to our many collaborators.
Thank you. Okay. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you also, Fabio.